Welcome everybody to our December 2023 Agile Austin Leader Special Interest Group. Yes, Matt, I still say the whole thing at the introduction of the SIG. Yes, some things don't change in 13 years,
Love
okay?
it.
Yes. So, would like to welcome you all. Here, as part of the larger Agile Austin umbrella, we collaborate, we connect, we grow, all things Agile. Yes. And I'll just go through a few of the intro slides. I'll start by an introduction of myself, Max Akesi. I am also the president of Agile Austin, and during the day job, IT senior manager at PayPal, and I have been the founder and facilitator of this Leader SIG. What we do here, we meet the first Friday of every month, and we actually talk about how to help lead Agile transformations. We have speakers, we talk about it. Hopefully we learn and grow, and that's what we're focused on here. Membership and sponsors, I'm just gonna drop the link to our site, agileaustin.org. It is phenomenal. You can get all the information from there. And anybody that might be interested in hearing more about membership or about sponsorship, ping me offline. Okay. Great stuff. And in the interest of time, I will go on. Shout out to our sponsors. We just did a revamp of our sponsors. A couple other sponsors are going to be joining us soon, but shout out to Agile Velocity that has been involved with us for years now, like a decade plus. And also shout out to Ad Meliora Coaching, done by our very own Aaron Randall. Okay, shout out to them. And heads up, Agile Velocity is doing really awesome certifications and training courses. And for Agile Austin folks or people that are involved with our community, they give a discount. Okay, so if anybody's interested, snap the QR code here, or it's going to be recorded, or just ping us. Okay. For those of you that might not be aware, like you can go to Meetup and just subscribe to the Agile Austin page, and you get all the alerts of our 5 to 7 meetup sessions per month that we do. And then we post it on our YouTube channel. Free content accessible to everyone, because our number one priority is sharing knowledge, best practices, and love in the Agile space. Okay, that's what we do. So I just want to make sure that everybody can know, just go and subscribe to it. I'll put a few links in the chat always. Okay, right now. And you can always get all the information. And breaking news, we are planning to bring back the product SIG. We're trying to look for some co-leads. We're trying to look for this because we need to focus on product stuff. Yes, Matt. So if you know anybody that's truly passionate about product stuff that wants to help us out, we've got one person already. We need 1 or 2 more. But product, we need to talk a lot more about. Okay. So we did have a product SIG, but it kind of fell apart when the pandemic hit and it never came back. Okay. I put the email to the board of Agile Austin. All I'm going to say, you want to contact us. We're very open. We want to hear from everybody. Board at agileaustin.org. You want to tell me and the board how great we are. Board at agileaustin.org. Okay, shoot us an email. It's me, it's Lee, it's Angela, Ben, who's here as our CTO, and Scott Keeling, our treasurer, who was also a founding member of Agile Austin back in 2007, right? We got a mixture of the old, the new, a bunch of other stuff. If you'd like to volunteer, I put that link also in the chat. It's always great to just hear from folks that would like to contribute, right? We've got 12 to 15 people now as volunteers that are always doing stuff. Okay. 2024, our Keep Austin Agile conference is coming hybrid. in March 7th. So we say, come for CA, stay for South by Southwest. Okay, there's like 2 days after that. And shout out to our sponsors now, a bunch of other sponsors in the pipeline, but I just want to post out here also in the chat the information for CA. And we made the decision because we were selling tickets, and then our early bird special was going to end December 1st. And we said, no, it's been a tough year in 2023. We got a great deal on the UT Commons conference facility because it's a nonprofit and they're helping us out as a nonprofit. And we've got great things going for us. We're doing very well financially. Let's help out people. We're not going to raise the ticket price to $200. We're going to keep it at $175 and a good reduction if you're a member of Agile Austin. So please check it out, because once all the tickets are sold, they're sold, right? And so we're trying to aim for anywhere between 250 to 350 people at the conference. But we are going to have fun March 7th in Austin. Hybrid, virtual is also an option for people that are not here, okay? And we're going to have the cool lineup for today. We're going to have a panel discussion with Sid and Josh, but we'll wait to get to that. We're going to have some fun, okay? January, Happy New Year. We're not going to meet, okay? Work-life balance. We're going to take a break. Then we're coming back in February with Stephanie Gregg to talk to us about her experiences in kind of evolving commonly known Agile Scrum roles like Scrum Master and Product Owner into one role or into like a different role, and tell us their experiences about how it went, what some of the successes were and the failures, because it is natural that we will evolve from some standard roles that had been established over 10 years ago. That actually can happen. And sometimes we have challenges with evolving. Even us Agilists have challenges with adapting to change. All right, so we're going to hear about that in February, and contact me, anybody, if you have an interest in speaking at a future one. We always have a Brady Bunch picture, so remind me to do this afterwards, okay? Because then snapshot this, we'll post it on, I'm at the meetup for anybody that would like to see it and stuff, and it's just fun. It's just fun, okay? It's kind of a Zoom tradition now here at the Leader SIG. Right before we get to our panel discussion, did you folks notice what I put on the meetup about our 13-year anniversary? Can I have a round of applause? Thank you, Josh. Okay, thank you, Sid, Matt. And for you folks that have your camera off, or you can put something in the chat, because do you know what it takes to have something consecutively every month for 13 years? Okay, that is an accomplishment in itself. Okay. I'm still not seeing the love in any chats on the chat, okay? If you want to write anything, thank you. Appreciate it. I want to feel it. What is funny is that I'm not sure.
Can I just tell a like less than 30-second story?
Yes, because you were our first host for this.
Because the way that it happened was I was president of Agile Austin at the time, and I had talked to a very enthusiastic Max Akizi, and I pulled the same move that Scott Killen pulled on me when I talked to him, and I said how much I loved Agile Austin. This was 2009. And I said, I love it so much. And he said, hey, Matt, how'd you like to be the president? And then I ran, and I won unopposed. So like, I don't know what kind of accomplishment that is, but it was the same sort of thing with Max coming to me saying, I really love Agile Austin. I'm like, how'd you like to help? How I was thinking about, one of us was thinking about a leader SIG. I don't know if it was me or Max, but and then it happened. So that was the whole thing. I pulled a Scott Killen on Max, and then we had the first Agile.
But you did more. You offered your office by the 360 Austin Bridge, CA, right. High Performance. I remember, right. Matt, I remember. Yeah, and we've been doing it ever since then. Thank you, Matt. And I just wanted to say briefly, thank you, Matt, and thanks for coming out. This is like, there was Ned that used to come to those sessions back then too. Matt that was there. Ben, I'm not sure if you used to come or not. You probably maybe come once. You were not a regular, but you did come.
That's right. I came a couple times, but I figured you wouldn't remember me. That's okay.
really quickly, because we got to get to our panel discussion. What is interesting when you've been doing something for 13 years, you notice the evolution. Back then, we didn't have all these established process frameworks and knowledge across the industries and all the certifications. Like people were just showing up at these sessions and like had heard about Agile, had heard about Scrum. So we had a lot of topics about ramping up the Scrum team. You should have a product backlog. You should actually establish sprints that are probably 2 weeks long instead of 2 months. You should do, like, we just went through basic stuff. Agile estimation. I was tired of talking about story points. Tired. Okay. I had like 4 sessions on that. At some point I just stopped. I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Scaling Scrum beyond the team. It's like, what? It can be done beyond the team. Look at where we're at now. I mean, we've gone so far past this. And I think what is great as I stop to share and we switch to the other deck, I'll just have to say, oh no, I stopped sharing. I didn't want to stop sharing. I'm sorry. But let me bring up the other deck. I've got to say that now that we are at the point that we're at, it is incredible when I take a look now and we can actually talk about things like psychological safety and team empowerment and trust, which I didn't feel as comfortable talking about that back then. So there's been progress made in some other spaces that I very much appreciate, but I've got to say it's been interesting to see the evolution that we've done. Let me just make a quick change to enable annotations. No, it's off. Okay. Today, we are going to be having a panel discussion talking about the evolution of a high-value delivering Agilist, because things are continuously evolving. What might have been delivering value as an Agilist in 2010, 2015, even 2020 might not do it anymore. So I'm just so happy to have Sid and Josh here to talk about it. Let's just go at it. And if people are interested in sharing something, put stuff in the chat. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We're going to go through 3 particular topics, right? And then time permitting, maybe take some Q&A. But as we get started, let's go straight into introductions. Josh, all the way from San Antonio.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I've been here before, so some of the names are looking familiar. I've been in San Antonio for about 7 years. When I came down for USAA, I got my start in Utah at a company called Circe Dynex. Before that, before coming into the Agile space, I was in the military, and we've got O Cristo Redentor, right, from Rio. And Eiffel Tower. So as in the military, I was a Portuguese and a French linguist. And so a lot of that experience has helped me understand culture, speaking the right language and communicating with people, not just talking at them. And so those kinds of things helped shape my transition into Scrum Mastery, looking at the larger picture and what's not happening just with this individual unit, but what's happening in the area of operations, and larger picture helped me move into the Agile coaching space. And then most recently I was at Target as a product coach and kind of shifted into, that project to product, and then how do we develop product leaders, and then now have made the transition into foundations first. So starting my own independent, consulting as a Gallup certified strengths coach, doing team coaching, and really coming in and helping people see what they cannot or will not see and creating the space for them to explore that.
Thank you, Josh. Great to have you here. Let's get straight into Sid. Oh, wait, but hold on. Before we go to Sid, Josh, Sid and I put pictures of our family and stuff like that. I know that here we only talk about Agile stuff, but if you just so for the record, because we're recording it, could you also include your family because you do care about them?
Yeah, I absolutely do. So thanks for letting me get this on the record, right? Yeah, so I'm down in San Antonio. We have a little homestead. There, I have 6 kids, ages 10, ranging from 10 to 9 months, 10 years old to 9 months old. Uh, three boys, followed up with 3 girls, twins at the caboose. So it's a busy household, and we love it.
There you go. Great to know. Straight into Sid.
Amazing, amazing. I want a farmstead. That sounds awesome. Um, so I'm Sid Markle. I work at IBM and I'm part of the CIO organization on a team called Strategy. I'm on a CIO strategy team. And I love that this is the 13th year anniversary of this because 2011 is when I first got involved with Agile. So I like that. So in 2011, I joined my first Scrum team. My background before that was in a little bit non-traditional. I wasn't in technology, except I was I was in content and content strategy, and I did focus on web development and some of that. So I wasn't an engineer. A lot of the people that I encounter in my Agile journey, their background started in engineering. But I joined my first Scrum team as a content strategist, and I remember that invitation. They said, "Hey, we want you to be on a Scrum team." And I went and Googled Scrum, and I was trying to figure out what my job had to do with rugby. I could not figure it out. But I learned quickly. And in fact, I fell in love with it really quickly and was convinced this was the only way to get work done. And I got my Scrum Master certification and shifted. I made a big pivot and I became a Scrum Master iteration manager, moved to New York City for my job, worked there for a while. I moved there with my 2-year-old, and then I had my second child while we were there. And then in 2016, we came back to Texas. You can see my little journey here. It looks like a game map where I've mapped through all the different things. And I moved into the Agile coaching role, focusing on Agile marketing. We were expanding Agile at IBM into the marketing space, and Anthony, who's on this call, he was a big part of that as well. And that was really interesting. And I helped put together a program for Agile change agents in marketing, helping us make those changes. And then in 2020, I made another pivot and I moved into IT. So back from marketing and into IT, rolled out OKRs for our CIO organization, and kind of a late bloomer, didn't get married till my 30s, didn't purchase my first home until my 40s. So did that during the pandemic, but we were moving all over all the time. And my latest big challenge and move has been into this strategy team. I'm no longer dedicated to Agile coaching, and I'm focused more on organizational transformation and how I bring what I know about Agile and what I love about that into the way our organization runs and works. So that's me.
Yeah.
That's long enough.
You bring your Agile mindset along, right? Yes. Awesome, Sid. Awesome. Last but not least, let's cover Max real quick. As I said before already, IT Senior Manager at PayPal here at the Agile Austin organization since 2010. I've lived the most in 3 places: Lagos, Nigeria, Rome, like in Italy, and in Austin, Texas, the longest. I've been here since 2001. Right, that's my life, like my environments of where I grew. So 3 different continents, very multicultural and global, and I think that's always helped me out. Married Sarah and my 2 daughters, Sasha and Simona, and that was a picture before they asked me to step away from the podium at the White House, because they're like, no, you're not certified, you don't have the pass to give a press conference here, so please step aside, sir. Okay. I love to speak at like conferences, meetups, all things Agile mindset. Okay, as you could tell, like our conference is Agile growth mindset, always trying to push that. I just put down the places I've worked to just give an example of. I've always worked at large IT enterprises. That's it. That's it. And in 2007 was when I got on my first Scrum team, and I was asked to be the Scrum Master. I had no clue what it was about. But when I discovered it, and when I was like, we are delivering things in an iterative manner, oh, I could just remember how excited I was about it. It just clicked, and I never looked back again. Never. So glad to be here, folks, and let's dive straight into it. So, folks, I've got to say, when I started off with this first question, there was a lot of bitterness in me. I was hating. I was like, why are agile roles no longer in demand? Why are all these layoffs of agile roles? Capital One like got rid of any role that had agile in it. They got rid of them. And our panelists have had probably the same experiences in companies they've been in, that is like, oh, let's think. So it was just coming out. And then I was like, hold on a second. Okay. Maybe this can be the best and the worst of times for us. Maybe it's an opportunity to reconnect with the agile values and the principles, or with something that might help us add more value as agilists in the future. But before I go too far, I'd like to hear from the panelists about this particular evolution and environment that's happening. And I'll just conclude with saying, I don't hear the same scenario when talking about data scientists or anybody that does anything with AI. You might just have like played around with ChatGPT for a few weeks and put that in the LinkedIn. You've got a better chance of getting an interview and over. Okay. Can you talk to us about this from your experiences? Sid, please jump in.
Sure. Okay. I do have, we've been talking about this amongst my fellow Agilists and the people that I know. And I really think there are a lot of factors that go into why dynamics shift in any kind of industry. But there are, I think, three that I'm going to call out that I think are why we're seeing shifts for us. One, I think there's a misunderstanding and maybe a misalignment of what Agile means. I think that, last year's State of the Agile report said that one of the obstacles to adopting Agile was lack of support and leadership commitment. And I think that a lot of times when a business says, let's do an Agile transformation, maybe their intentions on the surface might be about, agility, but underneath it's about, they care about cost and growing revenue. And so there's a misalignment or a misunderstanding. I think second, there's been a decline in confidence of Agile. And I think that's because Agilists, as Agile leaders, Agile influencers, we talk a lot about team dynamics, the softer side, empowerment, autonomy.
Yes.
And we know these things lead to high performing teams. However, the business wants to know about revenue and cost, and return on investment. So being able to communicate and directly tie valuable outcomes to Agile has been a challenge. I think that's the second thing. And then the last is the one you mentioned, the shifting, I was going to say skill landscape, but it's actually a shifting transformation landscape where AI is having an impact. It's got everybody's eye. It's that meme, where the guy's walking by holding the one's hand and then looking at the girl walking by. Well, the thing walking by is AI, right? So they're thinking about
and how. So the Agilists are the present girlfriend.
Sorry,
Is
yeah.
that what it is?
Right. That's right. But they're saying, how does AI going to impact the way our teams work, not just for how we develop AI, but how is AI used in the way of working with teams? And how do we as Agilists start to use that language? So it's about the language of outcomes. It's about shifting how we work as teams. And it's about making sure that we have a shared alignment and understanding with the business about what we can achieve with Agile. And I think those are some of the clues to me anyway.
Yeah, no, Sid, spot on. And before we go to Josh, especially what you said about a misunderstanding. In fact, I actually, on this slide, there was the official statement that Capital One gave when they made all the layoffs. And the thing that stood out to me was the last phrase of this statement. The natural next step is to integrate agile delivery processes directly into our core engineering practices. I've always thought that you do that from the start.
Right.
You do that from the start. You don't need an agile separate organization. And then at some point you say, let's let go of all of that. And because now we're doing this, you should have done it from the start. You should have developed a product in an iterative way, gotten feedback loops from your end user, all that. It's just the way you develop, you test, you do it. So like even the official statement of White was just off to me. And so you just think about just general misunderstandings out there. And sometimes we have to try to be aware of this and say, how can I make sure that there's not a misunderstanding when I am communicating the value I'm going to provide as an Agilist? And as you said, connected to delivering value, connected to revenue, connected to what people understand as being very important to them too. Psychological safety is important. Team dynamic and empowerment is important, but speak the language that is across the organization, very valuable. Josh, I was going to go to you. Then maybe I see some comments and some people said, like Kaylee said that all the Agile coaches in their organization was laid off. It'd be nice to hear from that. I mean, a comment or two on that. But Josh, first, if you could share your perspective, please.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was thinking of was actually with the 2020 update or 2020 version of the Scrum Guide, and that shift from Scrum roles to Scrum accountabilities. And I've been thinking about that a lot more because what I've started to see is less of a need for a person in this job title, like this is a role that requires a title, and more into that shift of this is a skill set that needs to be present on a team, but it's not their only job. And I think that's really hard for Agilists, right? Like that's my identity. That is, I am a Scrum Master. It's my certification. I am an Agile coach. We've built our identities around this thing, and now that it's being threatened. And so I think that's where we're getting into the worst of times, right? The best of times was when, hey, there's this new sexy Agile thing, and I still remember the LinkedIn posts that were coming up, you know, like the top 10 most in-demand jobs that pay really well, you know, and that don't require a degree or something like that, right? And so I think the commoditization of those certifications, the proliferation of the Scrum Master and the product owner and the Agile coach positions, and then filling those with people who didn't really align with the values. They didn't know what they were doing. And so they're just doing the best that they can. And leadership thinks that they're the expert. But, you know, to Sid's point, they're not thinking, like, there's just a misalignment. They don't understand, the leaders don't understand what Agile is, so they hire an expert, but they don't realize that the expert isn't actually an expert there. Yeah. And so with that misalignment, then all of a sudden when we get to these macroeconomic cycles where, you know, we're hitting tough times here in the US, you know, inflation's up, a lot of pressure on profit margins for companies, and the labor market's changing, so it's swinging back to employers having a little more power in that, and they're able to say, oh, I don't know that this is worth it. Like, it costs a lot, and what is that return on investment? Going back to Sid and exactly. What she was saying, like what's the value? Like, okay, teams that are happy, like, great. Are you saying that if you're gone, the team won't be happy? Like, that seems like a stretch.
Tell me something else you do to add value besides that, right? Like the fact that people even start with that. And Josh, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That was it.
When you really spoke about how it was the in thing, I remember reading Harvard Business Reviews on Agile transformation. I mean, when you've made the HBRs, I mean, because those are being read on the executive jets. right? Like, oh, like we should do an agile transformation. And when you've got like really high-end consulting firms like Deloitte, McKinsey, and that have even gotten into the agile transformation space, I mean, it's, you know, it's a mainstream, it's a moneymaker, right? But to your point, was it everybody that got into it role-wise through the certs and all the work? Did they have the same perspective from agile mindset and the values? But this is just not to call out anybody or criticize or be a hater on process frameworks or anything, but just to have an acknowledgement, folks. Like, you know, be aware that this has happened, right? And what we need to think about as we take our next step. Now, as we
Hey.
transition on to the next topic, sorry.
Can I just add to that really
Comments.
quick too?
Yes.
That was in the State of Agile report that the market has been flooded with individuals who are misrepresenting their certifications. So that is a thing.
There you go.
And I think that's one of the reasons I was part of this panel with the Scrum Alliance where we were working on the ethics for Agile coaches. I think that's what we saw. We saw the writing on the wall here. There is a lack of confidence in Agile practitioners because there isn't this sort of body of standards or governance that everybody who says they can do a thing can do a thing. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Exactly. No, spot on, right? And we're not here to fix everything or give a solution, but just raise that awareness. Raise that awareness, okay, that this is something that is happening, and kind of like a retrospective on ourselves and the industry. Does anybody from the group want to chime in with something that they experienced at their company, and that some of the agile roles were let go, and how come that happened, blah, blah, blah? Anybody would like to chime in real quick? Feel free. Kaylee, yes, please.
Yeah, sure. I was like walking around, was just eating lunch. Yeah, I mean, it was a shock that all were let go, but then also was it, I guess, kind of like they had said at Capitol, it seemed like they had gotten agile enough. You know, they're like, well, we're delivering software fast. We don't see the need. And I also think as Agilists, we tend to challenge a lot, and maybe executive leadership was getting a little fatigued with being challenged as well.
Bingo.
And
Yeah.
like,
And we have to be aware that, you know, how can we engage with decision makers without having to come off as being confrontational, right? And saying sometimes, no, the team cannot take more work right now. Maybe we can say, how about if we get better at prioritizing, right? Like, just like the different ways of engaging. But Kelly, thank you for sharing that, because that is a thing. It has to do a lot to do with people and personality. Right? Awesome.
One more thing, I want to back
Yes.
up. I do think, as several of you said, just like not so much speaking in the business language. Sometimes, like, it's good to have the psychological safety and the soft, but maybe we focused too much on that language.
Bingo. Yeah. And there are a lot of terms that we do not realize are very agile terms. When we're talking story points, when we're even talking velocity, people kind of understand it, but okay. And all of the burn down charts, like, we just get caught in the metrics sometimes, and it's like, like, how about a metric to measure the value we're delivering? Hey, and then we just start with that and build from there. Okay, thank you, folks. Let's go on to our next topic. So Sid and Josh, specifically to you, because you have learned a lot from your successes, you've learned a lot from your failures, and if you could just say like the top like few points about, wow, during my career, these are some key things that I've learned, right? And just drop it down so that maybe some other people can not make the same mistakes, or some other people can just have that kind of an awareness at their company when they see those kind of trends, they see those kind of things happening. It's just, again, raising the awareness of what has helped you grow in both your success and failures, because we learn from failures. I've learned from more agile transformation failures than agile transformation successes. Please. Sure. Should we go with Josh first this time?
Yeah,
Because we went with
that's what
Sid first last
Go for
time.
it, Josh.
We're
Yeah.
thinking.
All right. One of the things that has helped me with my agile career growth has been finding a skill building framework. I was using Lisa Atkins and the Agile Coaching Institute's. I call it the Agile X-Wing model. I know that's been updated and riffed on many times. I think the one I've seen the most recently is the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, and I've liked that one a lot as well. But then being intentional in planning my career development and saying where am I at with my skill set and where do I want to go, and looking for the opportunities to do those things. You know, whether that's a certification, whether it's finding the space in my existing role to stretch a little bit, and working with my leaders in being able to do that. The other thing that has helped me as I've moved into different departments, different roles within companies or moving between companies has been I keep a pulse. I keep my finger on the pulse of the market and like what's the role that I want to be in and what is the role that I'm in currently. And I look to see what's popping up in job postings. And so that helps me to start saying, oh, interesting. They want people who can do large scale facilitation. Like PI planning became a thing, and they wanted people who had experience doing that. As a scrum master, if I'm only working with one team or two teams in isolation, rather than being able to facilitate a whole PI planning or, 200 people in an art, or, whether you want to use safe language or not, can you do large scale facilitation?
Bingo.
So the place I was at wasn't doing PI planning. Okay, well, how can I get a couple of the scrum masters together where we work on similar things and like, let's just do a little 2-day retreat with our team and build something, right? Like build out a more coordinated plan. We didn't have to call it PI planning, those kinds of things. So that's one thing that has helped me on the success side. To avoid talking for too long, I'll pass it over to Sid, and then I'll come back to talk about
Wrap up
failure.
the failure. Excellent. Sounds good. That's good.
That's great. Great advice. So personally, what's helped my career grow, I don't know if it's specific to Agile or just in general, but I've always been really open to saying yes, even when I wasn't exactly sure. So I've been very open to new experiences, and I like the idea of what Josh was saying about thinking about what your next role is going to be. I found in my experience that I've landed in roles I never could have imagined. So I couldn't even have predicted that would be a thing. And so that's been really helpful. When I think about this on a broader scale, like from what makes organizations successful or not with Agile, speaking specifically about Agile, there's been a couple of things that I think are failures that I've learned from that I would recommend not doing again. One, being really dogmatic about rituals and practices. So the adherence to ritual and practice in a dogmatic way that doesn't allow for adaptation or even the context of a team or a context of a business situation. So that's one failure that I think we can learn from, and as an agile all agile practitioners. Two, scaling in larger organizations. Agile was created for small, fast teams, and so I've seen where we've tried to apply Agile at large technical organizations, as you've been at too, Max. And
Yes.
I've seen that the emphasis on autonomy and self-organization has overshadowed some of the governance and process standardization, which has led to a lack of transparency, which is the opposite of what we wanted.
Like you don't know what people are doing.
Exactly.
You don't know what people are
their
doing.
own way, so we can level up information in any kind of automated way that doesn't take hours and hours and hours of digging and reporting. So that scaling and that and then that one that I already mentioned was failing to speak the language of the business. So in the last 2 years, year and a half that I've been working in the strategy side of things and really working more closely with the leaders of the organization, I've come to see what they're dealing with on a day-to-day business basis. And it has changed my perspective on how I would talk to them about the work that we're doing. And no wonder they would get exasperated with the discussion about team dynamics when they're trying to solve some of these other bigger things. And so learning how to recognize what's important to the audience you're working with is really important. So those are the failures that I've seen and that I feel like I've learned the most from.
Yes, I mean, spot on. And some of these things, when we talk about it, it sounds like an elementary topic. Like, no, the people that you're delivering a product or a service to, try to really understand their problems and their pain points. I mean, that sounds like an elementary thing, but look at how we all get into our sprints and, okay, you're going to give me some stories now, and I'm going to prioritize them, and we're going to do this. And people are like, I just want my system to work faster. I want the application to work faster. Why do we have to talk about it? Why don't you just shadow me? I remembered once we just shadowed an end user of a sales app that we built to configure servers and storage and everything. And we just shadowed one of the technical sales rep for like 1 hour. And we were like, as a development team, we were like, oh my goodness, they only use 20% of the functionality that we built for them. And they have to open 3 different browsers to make this thing work and everything. And we're like, why are we throwing out there all this cool functionality that our product person was asking for? We're like, hold on.
User centricity has to be the one thing of Agile that stays no matter what. Like, we've got to be able to walk in the user's shoes. And that's
Bingo.
true whether you're dealing with a user of your product or the stakeholders of your product, you know?
Bingo. Yes. Yes. And just that awareness, there should be more training around that. There should be more awareness and case studies around that. I mean, I could go, and I'm just so passionate about the customer centric approach. And the one thing I really took away from when I worked at Whole Foods that was acquired by Amazon is not how awesome the Amazon culture was, with due respect, or how awesome they treated like the people in the warehouse or their IT executive. Because Amazon, they are just known. They're just blunt. They're in your face. Get this done. If you can't, we'll find somebody else to do it. But their customer centric like passion was second to none. Second to none. Everything was from the customer, work backwards. And that is, I think, in a lot of ways, their success point. Their success point. Because in no other way can you think 2 clicks on an app and a package is outside my door, no matter where I am, right? It's just incredible. But okay, anybody else have something to add to this around like something that was a key success or failure that we didn't hear? Or Josh, if you want to chime in real quick about the failures before we go into the next one.
Right. I'll just keep this brief because I think it echoes a lot of what Sid was saying with being adaptable to the leaders that come in. What I've seen, leadership changes. And so my biggest failures came in when there was a change in leadership, maybe not the leaders that I was directly working with, but maybe the ones that were a layer or 2 above them, and not understanding what was important to them. Why was there a leadership change? What is their role, right? In where is the business at in its economic cycles and struggles? And am I helping to solve for the right problem? Because if I'm not helping solve for the right problem, then I'm doing the wrong thing. And eventually that comes back to bite you.
There will be a consequence to it. There will be a consequence to it. Absolutely.
Right. Whether you get laid off, you get fired, you just get excluded and shoved to the side, you know, depending on how the organization wants to deal with it. But yeah, it took me unfortunately 2, maybe 3 times to learn that lesson, and like, oh, that's what I did wrong.
That's right.
See that it took though. I had to see the trend, see the pattern. Like, now I
because it happens. It can happen in a very subtle way over the period of months and quarters and years. But you know, but yes, like very key point for people to take away. Okay.
So
Be
that's
connected
a
to
trigger
the
for me.
decision maker.
When there's a leadership change, pause, right?
Mhm.
Anything new you were going to do, like just push pause on that. Anything you're currently doing, start reevaluating, start listening better. That's a key to start listening.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Josh. And I saw, was it Anthony that had
I
his
think.
hand up real quick and then it went down? Or is it back
Yeah,
up
no,
again, Anthony?
we're running low on
Right?
time, so we're good. We're good. I'll ask. I threw some stuff into chat, but we can.
Okay, you put it in the chat.
Keep going. We're good.
Sure. Okay, okay. Let's just one last topic, Anthony, and we'll see if we got some time to squeeze it in. Hey, folks, we are in a world that is changing faster than it ever has in our human existence. Like the first smartphone was the Apple, was it the iPhone 5? Okay, and that was in 2007. And look at everything that we do now on mobile technology, right? It just blows your mind away, okay? Globalization, AI, et cetera, and et cetera. So can we combine this with a call to action for people? So if you just brainstorming now, how can the Agilist succeed in this ever-changing world? We've touched on a few points, but can you just solidify, right, from your perspective for like an Agilist? I think we just transitioned from one that Josh called out, be aware of when changes happen at the decision-making tier.
Right.
Be aware of that, because a lot of us are not aware, and this happens to a lot of people I'm like a variety of roles, but the Agilist roles, which are involved with a lot of change and transformation and pushing the envelope, you have to be aware of your
Right.
stakeholders and people. But please, Sid.
All right, I'm going to
jump
go as fast as I can because I want to make sure there's
in.
room for everybody to speak. I really think that, again, I'm going to reemphasize, we have to learn to speak the language of value. Number one, like we have to think about the way we talk and who we're talking to and make sure that we're listening and responding. We already said this. That's one. Two, how are we going to leverage the shifts that are happening around AI? How do we, get our agile approaches? These things are going to help with everything that's happening there. So thinking about how we frame that discussion. Then the third thing is to regularly, you said something about retrospecting the way we are. We have to constantly evolve how we're doing things in order to meet the current needs. And I'll just say, as a bottom line, if you hear nothing else from me, I think our emphasis should shift from merely doing agile to embodying agile in a way that it's almost invisible. It is part of our way of working. And the focus should be less on talking about agile and more about discussing how we can evolve the work to show tangible results. That's what I think is important for succeeding in the changing world.
Bang. It should just be second nature. Things should be second nature. We don't have to have a ritual about it, a meeting about it, or whatever. Things are just second nature. However you get it done, but just things done second nature. Yes. Josh.
All right, I'm going to try and keep it quick too. I think it comes down to adaptability. You've got to be adaptable. It's a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, and it's becoming more and more so. Detached from your identity as a Scrum Master or as an Agile coach. Focus on your skills. What is it that you can accomplish, and then solve real problems. Right? I still do Agile coaching, but I'm starting to shift into more organizational development and looking at something that is not an Agile title. Right? Sid mentioned she is not in a traditional Agile role, but we're bringing that Agile mindset. We know what our skills are, and we're bringing that to solve real world problems. So I think that's the key for Agilists right now.
Yeah, no, Josh, spot on. And as we talk a lot about AI, I already know people that have adapted to start to use AI to break an epic down into stories, which gets you 50 to 60% there, but then they can tweak things a little bit. And then in their mind, and from what I experienced, maybe, as you said, all of a sudden people could do things that were things that Scrum Masters were doing and product owners were doing, and a third role, and they could all do it themselves with the augmentation of whatever technology is available. and automation. There's so much we can adapt to and do so much more, but we've got to get out of the, like the limitations that we've put on ourselves, from roles to process frameworks to etc. We're going to break away from that, right? Again, not hating on any process framework or any role. I'm always trying to not be a hater. So people say, oh, Max, you're such a safe hater. Oh, you're such a hater on roles. No, Sid, we're not hating. People can get value from learning from whatever angle they want, okay? But, okay. But to Anthony, here, we've got 9 minutes or so until we are officially done. Then if some people want to stay after and chat just to close up, fine. But please, you had a point you wanted to share. Anthony.
Well, I put it in the chat. There's a couple of things. There's some good conversations in chat. I think the idea of going back to a model, I'm almost anti-framework, like what you're describing. I kind of resemble that remark. Not because I think the frameworks are bad. I think by definition, anytime you prescribe a way, that's fragile. So if you prescribe it, we already have a problem, Houston. But the idea of when we think of Agile, we're almost always thinking about, so here's the thing we've been asked to do. Here are the objectives. Here are the key results. Here's the iteration. Here's the, epics. Here's the decomposition of those stories. We're always thinking about the right side. So if you visualize that, that's the right side. What's it aligned to? Well, in theory, a North Star, which is really just a guiding star, a mission and a vision, our why with what makes that successful, not for us, but for those we serve. So it's a client-centric point of view. But then on the left side, you're going to have, we have goals, which is what's in it for the company. This is where in agility, I've seen the focus is everything on the right. Like, look how good we're getting at our velocity. Look at our throughput. Look at our churn rate. Look at okay, great. But getting really good at scooping up dog poop, rolling it in glitter and packaging it nicely was never a good idea, right? Like it's when you think of, what's his name? Peter, my brain just totally failed. Modern management. He said, there is nothing as useless as doing something efficiently that should not be done at all, right? So getting good at the right side was never the point. That was a byproduct of having clarity and alignment. So the left-hand side is then the goals, which are informed by KPIs, where a key performance indicator is nothing more than 2 or more metrics combined, compared, contrasted, so that you can see if you're going to achieve the goal. The problem is, as we go deliver and work on something, whether it's software development, marketing, sales, operations, I do all that. So it's yes, can we do those things? Sure. We're going to deliver. We have no idea if we're right until after it's in the market, after it's been tested. So we have no idea. So it's a hypothesis.
Adding value to someone. It's adding value to someone.
Potentially. We think it's adding value, but we have to let it exist in the market. We have to see how it's performing. And there's the KPIs, right? Because there's the performance management. Agile is learning management. Goals and KPIs are performance management. So you have to be able to tie and say, does this objective align to this goal? So that if we think we're going to create and deliver value, abstractly, hypothesis, that is this goal, hypothesis, thing we think we should do. They're all guessing. They're educated guesses, but they're guesses. And we try to get a little bit better at that guessing game over time. But what I don't see is hey, we did this for 3 months. We delivered, we did whatever. We're on to the next thing. Well, 6 months later, the performance indicators say that the thing we delivered wasn't effective. Well, what's the opportunity to apply that learning to the next thing we're doing? And even to go back and say, should we optimize, iterate, reinvent? We just keep moving on. And look how agile we are. That was never the point, right? Agility was not the ability to deliver more, faster, better. That was a byproduct, in the same way that the point of owning a business is not to generate profits. That's a byproduct of creating and delivering a value. What I've not seen a lot of, and what we work really hard at, is how do you connect them? Because there's a leading indicator on the right and a lagging indicator, and you have to have the long view. Because I think it was, I can't remember who it was that said it. Maybe it was Josh. I think it was Josh, where he said, something's going to change. Of course it is, leadership. So when that change happens, do you have data, not just the quantifiable metrics, but the validated insights from feedback that you quantify over time to say, well, the number said this, feedback said this. Here's the dissonance. And can we highlight that and talk about what that looks like? If we would do that, Agile would have a great reputation, but we don't. All right, there's my soapbox. I'll get off.
Max, we loved it so much we can't hear you anymore. Yeah. Happened. No. No, we cannot hear you.
Max
He
is
hit his quota.
speechless.
He hit his quota of words.
I think this is the
Now you're
first
on mute,
time.
Citrat.
No!
Yes,
There we
Hey,
go.
Yeah!
correct.
My biggest fear is the fear of not being heard. Don't do this to me. Don't
No
do this to me.
kidding.
No
A
kidding. Oh,
silent
Ned,
max is not a max.
you're going to talk next, okay, Ned? But just to double click on what you just said, I mean, Anthony, for the Agile conference, we got a gazillion submissions. And what surprised me is how few submissions were about connecting to value delivered. I mean, as soon as we saw KPIs, we all got excited, like in one thing, like, yes, you know, this might be, but then it wasn't really about KPIs and like the value and measuring it, like, but it was getting there. But it shows that even in the whole Agile community, we have just shifted to the right. We have shifted to the right, and now we have a responsibility to shift to the left and doing all this measuring of value and raising the visibility to what value was delivered or not, regardless, and work with our product folks to have they focus on it and have the business focus. Everybody should be focusing on it, not just us Agilists that say so. And yes, Ned, silent max is an oxymoron. Okay, that Ned, share something else now.
I'm in a constrained environment, so I'm going to keep it
Okay.
low down.
Then keep on chatting. We still do want to hear from you. Folks, we can hear maybe one other comment just to be on time. As I said, it's always great to stay a little bit afterwards, but officially we start and end on time. So does anybody want to chime in? 2 minutes. Yeah, Igor, 2 minutes. What say ye?
Okay, hi everyone. It's
Oh.
evening from my side. I think it's day or morning from your side. So
But from where are you joining, Igor? From where?
at the moment I'm in Kiev. So
Kiev.
greetings from Kiev.
Oh, stay safe, Igor. Stay safe. Greetings. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So my observation is like it's interesting to make use tools, right? But be focused on people because people are the most valuable things. They producing values. They do products. They do project management. So whatever we use, OKRs, KPIs, Scrum, Spotify, yeah, right. The best what we can do is to make a great relationship within your team, within your leadership or top management group, and make them communicated to talk to each other, not just to and to produce some conflicts, right? To produce some positive, productive conflicts. Make some team agreements because it also something that can be applicable for any team, and it makes a really, really great value for us. And as well as lunch and learn practices. When we do some coffee, whatever, some lunches, some whatever, right? And communicate to each other, help to understand coaching, help to understand mentoring, help to understand how to communicate in a positive way, right? And how to make constructive conflicts work.
Yes.
And how to resolve the conflicts by your own, by self-managing the teams. Not just
Yes.
when leaders are coming, we try to be silent, right?
Yes.
But to re-evaluate, redesign it, make it workable, make it applicable, and yeah, that's it. What I wanted
Yep.
to
No.
say, like
No, and thank you for sharing that, because you're spot on. You're spot on, right? Like, first, even before we talk about frameworks or processes or stuff like that, we just have to like build the relationships, right? Come together, say we need to deliver value to our customers, our end users. But first, let's come together and start talking about that. Let's get to understand how we communicate to each other. Let's start to see how we're going to work together towards this common goal. And some people throw in their process frameworks and, you're going to do planning in this way and this way before we even collectively align on our goals towards the customers, right? In a humane way. Absolutely. Thank you. Hey, to Igor. And thank you to like 1 hour goes by really fast when we're having a lot of fun. But this has been a great time. In all traditions, as always, I would like to tell people as we leave, can we turn on our cameras? As many people turn on our cameras as we say thank you to Sid and Josh for being our guests today. Thank you, Kaylee. I see you. Brian, Samira, Alan, there you go. Come on, we've got a few more cameras. Mark, there you go. Teresa. All right, so act as if you're having a good, fun time, okay? And I am going to see where my snapshot thing is now. Hold on. Take a new snap. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay, done. Thank you very much, folks, and stay agile. Have a good Friday and weekend, and we'll see you the next time. Okay, take care and bye. Cheers.
Thank you, Max. This was awesome. It was really fun to be part of the discussion. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out, Sid. It's just
Mhm.
awesome to share thoughts and viewpoints like that.
Mhm.
Have a good, intense hour, then break. That's it.
That's
Have
right.
a good day.
Thanks, Max.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Sid.
See
It
you.
was
Thank you,
it was
Igor.
fun being
Take
on the
care.
panel with you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. We'll have
Yeah.
to connect some more. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
yes, that's
sure.
awesome. Yes, yeah, and a chance. You see, the Leader SIG is bringing us together, the
Yes.
Agilists together.
That's
There
right.
you go. All right, folks. I'm going to stop the recording and everything and have a good time. Okay. Well, I'll stick around a bit for a couple of minutes, but let's end this recording.